Welcome to the Dave Whitty Show. I'm your host, Dave Whitty. Folks, thanks again for tuning in. Episode 13 is here. Can't believe I've been doing these for a little bit over 3 months. Been a lot of fun. Been a great learning experience for me. And I've been really enjoying chatting with all the guests that I've had on. I've also been enjoying to have a little room to vent on different things that I like to do. And just another creative outlet for me. So yeah, big thanks to everybody who's tuned in so far. And I've just been trying to keep them diverse and have different interesting people on. Obviously, I know a ton of people within the community, who are involved in music, but I've been trying to keep it with people who aren't into music, who don't play music necessarily as well. So just been really trying to fit different types of people in. So thanks to all my guests that have come on. You pretty much have made the show. I mean, I normally just get on here and rant about the Leafs, so it's been nice to chat about whatever everybody else is up to. Once again, big thanks to Greg Smith. Came in here last week we had a great interview. I mean, he's normally interviewing me and all kinds of people like myself. So I just want to say thanks to Greg. And if you missed that episode, you can find it on all my social media or wherever you listen to podcasts, of course, on YouTube, et cetera. Great chat with Greg. I mean, he's awesome dude. Really, really cool story, and he's involved in the community. So it was really fun to chat with him. Got another great episode lined up for you today, guys. Brent Mac's in on the podcast today. He runs Brent Mac Events. Just an awesome entrepreneur, an event planner. He puts off a ton of shows annually. I mean, he does the Best Con Barbecue, the Jibfest Weekender. He's a part of the Best Con Comedy Tour. He's just got his hands in a little bit of everything, and just another young guy, man, who's just absolutely killing it, with events, and he does it with such a positive attitude. I mean, if you don't know Brent at all, I'd be willing to bet if you went up and said hello to him, he'd chat the ear off you, and you'd be best friends in 5 minutes. He's just a really, really, really down-to-earth guy. Super, super funny. Like I say, he got his hands in everything, and he brings lots of really good vibes to the community. I mean, he puts off a ton of these really, really neat shows. And one cool thing about Brent, he really likes to keep it local as well. He obviously flies in a ton of different acts and for his events, but he really likes to support the local scene as well. And he always has a couple members of different bands or a couple of different bands perform during his the events and stuff that he puts off. And I was supposed to be a part of the most recent one, which would have been the Jibfest Weekender out in Corner Brook in February. But with the second wave of COVID happening here, they pulled a shoot on it, which was the right thing to do. I mean, me and Brent get into that for sure, but it was the right move. I mean, with COVID, you just don't know what's going to happen, and it's it's tough to plan anything, so you really got to hand it to Brent and all of his partners and the guys that he works with, and the girls, of course, too. They pulling off events like this, guys, takes so much energy and work and behind the scenes stuff. So to plan anything, especially with COVID looming, it's just not easy. So a big shout out to Brent, of course, and all his team. And make sure you do stick around for that interview with Brent. In the world of Whitty, had a great weekend in St. John's, guys. It was a lot of laugh. I mean, we debuted our new band this weekend at O'Reilly's. New band, we're called the Dawnies. It's myself, Robert Kelly, and Alex Cull. We played at O'Reilly's, like I say, Friday and Saturday night. We had a great turnout, completely socially distanced. All the COVID rules were in effect. Everybody was seated, but it was a great turnout. Everybody had a lot of fun. It seems like, we had a ton of positive feedback from those shows as well. And it was just nice to be able to share the stage with a couple guys. I mean, I do a ton of solo stuff. I play a lot of solo gigs by myself, and normally when I'm doing band work, I'm doing Whitty band stuff, which is my original stuff, and that's a planned event, where I might put together a show, at the Rock House or somewhere else like that. And, but we're just banging out all of my original stuff. So it's really, really fun to get together with a couple other guys who are absolutely fantastic musicians as well. To be able to get together with them and really, play some of the good old, like the Newfoundland hits. I love that stuff. It's always been a part of me. It's kind of something I've wanted to do for a very long time, was have a group like this, so to have these guys play with me, and the shows went really, really well this weekend. We debuted our single last weekend, a song called My Only Friend. We debuted that one on radio last week, and it was all over the radio the weekend just passed now, and hoping to get that up on some streaming platforms in the next couple of weeks or so hopefully we can get that into some ears. It's a really nice dynamic between the three of us. I mean, Alex is an incredible musician. He's just a crazy good guitar player, really, really great bouzouki player, I mean, amongst other things. So he brings that to the table, plus he sings harmony. Robert's a fantastic bass player. He incredible harmony singer, but he also does a lot of the production work for the recordings and stuff, so it's just a real treat to have somebody like that in a band who can really work behind the scenes on doing some of the production stuff. It's really, really nice. And I what I bring to the table is good times. That's that's all I got to offer now. But you know me, I'm a songwriter. I love writing the music. So I wrote that last one and I brought it into the guys. There was no bridge wrote, so we kind of wrote it together ourselves, and we came up with the arrangement of the song. So just nice having input from different guys. But it was a really, really fun weekend, and I winded it down there Sunday evening at Greensleeves, like I've been doing. Another really fun gig. Thanks to everybody who came out for that one. I'm actually recording on Monday, May 3rd this week. A little different for me normally, but I'm heading out of town for a couple days. So maybe when you're listening, I'll be tuned in. I'll be out around the bay for a couple days. Anyways, looking just to get away for a couple days and spend some time. Might hit up Pitcher's Pond Golf Course on Tuesday or Wednesday for a little 9-hole. It's close to the cabin, and it's just a nice little getaway for a couple hours. Not gonna dig too much into the NHL stuff right now. I mean, the Leafs are a wagon. The Leafs are rolling. Austin Matthews is rolling, but I'm not gonna bury you in that today because it's nothing really, really crazy going on. I mean, the Leafs they're really playing well right now, guys. Like really, really doing well. The standings kind of look like they're set in the NHL for the North Division, especially. It's really, really shaping up like it's going to be the Leafs and Habs first round, which is, man, is that ever going to be exciting? I mean, I don't know if I want it to happen or not, because if the Habs happen to beat the Leafs, my God, I'll just never hear the end of it. And who am I going to talk about on the podcast then? I don't know. Watching a lot of Blue Jays baseball right now. Also, just playing really, really well, guys. The Jays are playing well. The bats are moving. The pitching's been pretty consistent. And they're playing in Dunedin right now. They're not really playing at home. They're moving to Buffalo here soon, because the weather's too warm in Florida for midsummer. So I mean, they're going to be battling a tough season. It's going to be really interesting to see how they plan out. A lot of young players there. These guys are just kind of starting their careers and they're really excelling. So it's a very, very exciting time to be a Blue Jays fan, and it's a very exciting time to be a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, everybody. Yeah. Anyways. With that being said, I'm not going to dig too much into anything else. Yes, COVID still exists. I'm over it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. There's a ton of new cases happening here. It seems like they're all kind of travel related. So hopefully it sticks to that. Hopefully we get no loose cannons who go out and float about, if somebody comes home from work or something with it and goes out, because that's what's going to happen if we're going to see this third wave. I mean, Ontario, and you see Alberta and places like this, Nova Scotia right now, they're kind of exploding with it. So I just really, really hope that we can keep it at bay here, because it's been nice to have some freedom, and it's been nice to get back to work and nice to get out and see some people and just be able to feel some normalcy in my life. I mean, it's a tough racket being a musician with this stuff. So, it's kind of why I started this podcast, but I mean, that's been the silver lining in it all. So yeah, like I say, I'm not going to dig too much into that, guys. I had a really, really great chat with Brent Mac, and, we chatted for about an hour or so, and, he was talking about how he got started and all that stuff. So, I'll flip it over to Brent. So make sure you stick around for a great interview with Brent Mac. And I'd like to welcome Brent McNamara to the podcast. How you doing, Brent? What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. Thanks for having me on, man. How you making out?
I'm doing good, man. It's I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I think we're pretty lucky. I mean, I think my listeners are going to get sick of me saying this same thing over, but we've been pretty lucky here in Newfoundland that, we've had a couple scares, no doubt, but I mean, everything seems to kind of be back open again here. And, I've got a bit of work going on, and I'm sure you're feeling that a little bit more stuff happening lately again. I mean, we're not in Ontario or Alberta for that matter. So, I mean, we're pretty lucky. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
No, absolutely, man. Like I said, knock on wood, man. Hopefully we get through May and just pump more of these vaccines out and just get those numbers good. But yeah, just keep it going. We've started, we had we're currently on tour right now. Well, I'm not there, but Mike Lynch, who I manage, he's on tour right now, finishing off his Showmageddon tour. That was delayed over almost 2 months because of lockdowns earlier. But yeah, it's good to be back. The guys are in Corner Brook there tonight. So yeah, it's good. It's good to be doing shows again and just being back at it.
Yeah, it is. It's just nice to just kind of be thinking about doing something. You know what I mean? Like trying to plan something, not just like sitting back kind of like, what the fuck is going to happen here, man? Like, it's nice to just be able to try to plan some things out and try to come up with a few things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, we sort of got a date out there for the Best Con Barbecue this year, August 21st. It's sort of like, all right, here's where it's going to be. I can't quite say where it's going to be yet. We're still waiting to see how it's going to go. But, we hopefully, if all things go according to plan, numbers and stuff still to be determined. But, that's how it is. And same with the Best Con Comedy Tour. We're planning for that for the fall as well. A little bit scaled down. We're not driving across the country. We're just going to do Newfoundland and Alberta. But, just focus on those markets. But a year ago, we were kind of just, everyone had their hands up in the air. No one knew what they were doing. Or at least now you do see that light at the end of the tunnel, as they say, So,
yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. You're right, man. You nailed it. And I mean, it's been tough. It's been a tough year for people like yourself and people like myself, people who are in the events industry and planning. It's impossible. Yeah. You just don't know, man. You just have no idea. You did mention a bunch of the stuff just now you're involved in. I do want to ask you about some of that, Brent, as we go through this, but maybe for anybody who's listening at home and maybe that doesn't know who you are or what you do, could you just like give us a little briefing on who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm based here in St. John's. I grew up here my whole life, spent a little bit of time away, not much, pretty much my whole time living here. About 10 years ago, I started Brent Mac Events. So it's an event production and I guess now management company that I run. So we produce several events throughout the year. Jibfest Weekender in Corner Brook every February. We do the Best Con Barbecue, which has been around for 3 or 4 years now. That's a newer one we're trying to build up. Then I also do the Best Con Comedy Tour, which is a nationwide comedy tour with Mike Lynch, Colin Hollett, and Brian Aylward, 3 Newfoundland comedians that we did the last 2. Well, we didn't do it in 2020, but we did it in 2018 and 2019. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of just been producing events and kind of got those 3 main ones now that I'm trying to grow, but a few other things here and there, like a few one-off shows. But I mean, yeah, just produce events and kind of starting to help manage some artists as well.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. And I've been involved in a number of those events over the years and stuff. And they're always good times. Yeah. Lots of good laughs, man. Exactly. Yeah. That's one thing that, if you're going to a Brent Mac event, you're in for a few laughs, you're in for a good time, and it's always good folks around. It's positive vibes, man. Plenty of high fives going around. I mean, everyone's
absolutely.
Yeah. Everyone's
get back to those. It's been not many high fives this year. It's been missing out.
You're not allowed to high five, man. It's like high elbows.
I know,
high elbows now or something like that.
Yeah, it's so tough.
The awkward elbow, you're like,
yeah. the chicken wing. Yeah.
Brent, what was your mindset in getting started? I mean, you're a few years younger than me, man, but I mean, I feel like you've been around longer than me. I mean, you've been like beating around doing shows and you've been bringing in people. I want to ask you about some of that stuff as well, because you have brought in a ton of shows and stuff, but what was the groundwork? Where did you get started and where did you come up with the idea to start up Brent Mac Events?
Man, it's kind of funny. I was telling this story the other day, actually. So, I mean, it started for me in high school. I did a career day. People, you're probably familiar with those. People come in, they talk about different careers and just give you kind of some idea of what to do post high school. I didn't really have much direction. I wasn't quite sure. Anyway, I sat through the morning, 3 presentations, forget what they were, but nothing I was really interested in. After lunch, I was getting ready to pip off. I'm there in my 98 Corolla, ready to leave high school. And then a Red Bull van rolls in. This is 11 years ago too. So 17-year-old high school student, just like, wow, Red Bull like that. And I just 2 younger guys hop out, and Matt Power and Patty Green, 2 great friends of mine right now.
They're awesome.
Like, what do you guys? yeah, like what are you guys doing here? And they said, we're here to give a presentation about small business, event planning, and entrepreneurship. And coincidentally enough, I had that next. I just got randomly assigned to it. So I was like, yeah, I'll show you where your classroom is and stick around for it. And I was so fascinated, listened to every word they were talking about. Basically, they were doing a lot of shows, a lot of stuff that I do now. They were booking out the Rock House, Club One, bringing people down, just putting off shows. And that was the first thing I ever heard about this, right? About just being the person who produced things and connected the dots and made it all happen. I just loved it. So, I mean, I kind of stayed in touch with Patty and Matt, became friends of theirs. I actually had to do a project for that course, like a small venture creation. So I decided to do a dodgeball tournament. Got Patty donated, he was a Red Bull rep at the time, donated Red Bull. And then we were like, I mean, that would never happen now, like Red Bull in high schools and stuff. You know, we were just firing out Red Bulls, had the tunes going, 200 people playing dodgeball. It was sick. And then from that, I'm like, okay, this could be something. I ended up a year later, I guess I was turning 19, just wanted to have a big party, you know? Because I always, like, even in high school, was one kind of like coordinating things like that, you know, or after grad, those sort of things. And yeah, Patty's like, oh, I'll introduce you to Tony Murray, actually, at the Rock House, another legend in the scene. And from there, we kind of just clicked and had a great event. I gotta get
Tony on this podcast. He would be an awesome cat.
You do got Tony on this podcast.
He would be an awesome cat.
Stories.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to say that.
No worries, but no, absolutely, to get him on this. But yeah, met Tony, had a big party. And again, those are kind of like early Facebook days. I was just like throwing it out everywhere. I was just like, I want to just have a big crazy party. And it was an absolute banger. And then after that, he was like, if you want to do something again, by all means, let me know. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I just snowballed, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's definitely snowballed. I mean, you've taken yourself, you know, very far, man. You have a ton of different projects going on. I mean, you do a ton of different events, you know, not only just one-offs. I mean, there's some of these are returning events. I mean, like the Jibfest, the Weekender, and you know, the Best Con Barbecue. These are all things that, you know, happen annually now, obviously, you know, barring COVID and that kind of shit that goes on. But I mean, for the most part, they're happening every year. I mean, what was one of the first, like a big, you know, project that you wanted to do that you had eyes on, maybe to keep going annually? That's something that you wanted to keep going.
Well, it's sort of funny how it worked. I mean, one of the biggest projects I did ultimately failed like pretty hard, which people might not realize, but years ago we did one. It was called Random Sound. That was in Clarenville, right? Mm-hmm. So that was sort of a 2 or 3 year project. I had a few different partners, and we kind of had this idea just to bring this massive scale music festival to Newfoundland. And it was, I think at the end of the day, we bit off more than we could chew. You know, we flying in 20 odd artists, and between the 3 and 4 of us, we had 26 people from out of town, out of province, that we were just shuttling to Clarenville and back. It was a real big undertaking. It was a really cool event, but ultimately just didn't last, and we kind of went different ways. But I think what was cool with that was I learned a lot. That was basically my last work term. I took my last work term off instead of working for someone else, just took it on myself to create this festival with my partners. And, you know, so while that ultimately didn't succeed, that's what kind of led me to realize, okay, if I do things differently, I can build the brand up. You know, that's what ultimately a couple years later became the barbecue. I got a different partner. We started a little bit smaller, and now we're trying to build it back up, you know, instead of trying to start so massively and just way over our heads, you know. But yeah, I mean, so seeing the barbecue now where it's at and seeing that grow, same with Jibfest. I mean, we just had our 10-year anniversary 2 years ago. That was amazing. So yeah, it's cool just getting a bit of continuity going and seeing something build off the year before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned, you know, like the Random Sound, and you said it you know, it I don't want to say it failed. I mean, it was a couple-year project. I mean, it was what it was. Let's be honest here. You know, it was a tough thing. Yeah. You said you bit off a little bit more than you could choose, but I feel like sometimes, you know, in life and just no matter what you do, sometimes it takes like something like that to help. I mean, that was probably so helpful for you to take a smack, because you're like, all right, well, now we kind of know a couple different things that we shouldn't probably do next time, that we can work around. You know, you can really try to figure out a few different angles on something and maybe not try to bite off as much. And like you say, try to kind of build it up from the ground up.
100%. You just take the lessons, and like a couple of really major lessons that we learned was, for example, with the Random Sound. So it was for a various bunch of reasons. I won't get into the weeds of it, but for three different years, the event happened at 3 different places at 3 different times. So it's like, it's really hard to build continuity when it's a different time every year. Like, everyone knows and loves Grocery Fest because they know when it is for 30 odd years now, 40 years, you know? So they had that going for them, that they could announce it pretty last minute if they have to. And people know what it is and exactly what they're expecting. Blueberry Festival, the Regatta, all these events have built up over years. They're consistent in the time and place. And it seems like a minor detail, but when you're trying to work with so many factors, it is kind of hard to establish that. But yeah, I mean, when things definitely do get back to normal, at least with the barbecue at St. David's, hopefully that'll be our long-term home there. And, with Jibfest and Corner Brook, same thing. That's been the same weekend every year for the last 10 years. So that's why I feel has grown the way it's grown. So yeah, it's just building that consistency, which we missed the mark on with Random Sound. But again, we learned from it. So we take that and yeah, it was good. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
exactly.
Things, yeah.
Exactly though, man. But like you say, I mean, that wasn't yesterday either. I mean, that was a few years ago, man. I mean, you were taking that on as a young guy. I mean, you and whoever was involved. I mean, you're just not old, and I mean that's a big undertaking. And kudos to you for taking a shot at that too. I mean, because ultimately all that did was set you up for better successes with different events and et cetera. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I was probably like 21, 22. I was actually
that's crazy, man.
I was at like one of the things that probably distracted me a bit. I went to Coachella that year, so I came back all starry-eyed and saying, I got a vision. But at the end of the day, you're in Newfoundland. It was just hailing outside. And it was sunny a minute ago. We don't not deal with the same weather, the same landscape, same population. So you got to just be realistic. It doesn't mean you can't do good experiences, but you got to be realistic in type of people that can attend, type of money you can spend on an event, So, but it was an experience.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to another question, actually, man. Like, what are some of the challenges that you face for some of these events as being a Newfoundlander and putting them off in Newfoundland?
In terms, I mean, a few different ones for sure. I mean, one that's probably consistent with probably a lot of industries. It's just the physical cost of getting people here, especially like in Newfoundland, a lot of times people are, when you want to come here, they're either like early on in their career when you can probably afford them, but they might not be as popular. So you're taking a risk that way, or to get someone in their peak career is pretty tough, pretty expensive, And also you're working around their schedule, it's not, hey, come here on this date. Like, no, I'm going to come here on this date and take it or leave it. And you'll probably take it, So it's dealing with that. Anytime you're starting something new, I mean, obviously there's a lot of logistics dealing with new towns, new cities, a lot of red tape sometimes. But, once you meet the right people and kind of prove yourself and you get that working relationship, things can go pretty smooth. Like I said, everyone in Mount Pearl we dealt with before has been absolutely incredible at the barbecue. Corner Brook, Marble Mountain, those bar owners, absolutely incredible as well. So, we've got some really good relationships and people, I think we've proven ourselves and, we bring them good business. And it's just, it's a good win-win. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great working relationship. I mean, we were chatting a little bit before we came on here, and just chatting about it's all a win-win. You were talking about Mike, and he's out on the road, and he's bringing business to places right now where they've probably been hurting, and likewise the business is being reciprocated for Mike because he's having people show up to his shows, so it all kind of goes hand in hand, no doubt.
Oh yeah, he's an absolute. He's so funny, such a workhorse. I mean, he puts in so much work behind the scenes. A lot of people don't really realize. Like a good example of that is so the Best Con Comedy Tour, like 2 years in a row, we drove right across the country.
Sorry, I'm just going to cut you off for one. I'm just going to cut you off for 1 second. So for anybody who's listening at home now, we're talking about Mike Lynch, who's absolutely fantastic comedian here, part of the Best Con Comedy Tour, and he's out on tour right now across Newfoundland doing it's Showmageddon is the tour. Right?
It was, yeah.
Exactly.
It's sort of a play on Snowmageddon.
The
tour was supposed to happen in February, so it made a lot more sense. But
right.
May, but here we are. But yeah, Mike Lynch. I mean, all of them. Colin Hollett, Brian Aylward. People always, people kind of say to me in passing, "Oh, we must have so much fun on the road. Must have so much fun." It is. We have an absolute blast. But I'll drive for 8 or 10 hours a day to get to the next venue, and they're just got their headphones in. They're writing. Critiquing last set, working on new bits. What do you think of this tagline? What do you think of this? Like, there's so much that goes in behind the scenes, and like the first year we did it, really getting to see that behind the scenes was cool. It's the full-time job and more, just like anyone else. So
yeah,
they're putting their hours in. As I mean, it's not just get up on stage and play. It's it's everything behind the scenes, writing, booking, everything.
Yeah, exactly. I've always said, like, I mean, I can't speak for a comedian, but I know a bunch and they're friends of mine. Obviously, I had Brian Aylward on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I know Brian. I've known Brian my whole life. I mean, I know how hard he works, man. And I know how hard Colin works. And I know how hard Mike works. And that's just 3 of the comedians, in the city. I mean, there's 100 of them and they're all hilarious. Like, but I've always said, like, getting on stage is and doing the actual show. A lot of times, man, it's 10% of the work. Like it's like
absolutely,
it's the smallest percentage is the actual show. You know, it's all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the writing and the recordings and the, you know, just the promo work and everything. There's a shit ton of stuff that goes along with doing any, especially it's like a big tour like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the first year was really something. I mean, I probably booked it a little bit ambitiously. My first time being in a lot of those places and just booking things blindly, you know, Google Maps and spreadsheets, just blocking it in, and, you know, driving 7 hours, 8 hours the day of to a show. Like, that's a bit tight. You know, there wasn't much room for error, but we made it, you know, we're coming into shows 10 minutes before they start kind of thing. But it was good. Learned a lot from that.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you a little bit about the that comedy tour in a couple minutes. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Brent, from kind of when you were earlier on, man, like when you were bringing shows into St. John's and stuff, like what are some of your most memorable shows? Like I remember you had Shad here, like that was such a cool show, and like the Franklin Electric, like I mean they were really, really neat band. I mean they were right. It was like something that you said earlier. They were kind of just breaking through at the time. You know, it was just before they kind of really became more popular than they were at the time. I mean, it's, you know, kind of take some balls to take a band in like that. I mean, but they were both great shows. Like, what are some of the ones that stick out in your mind?
I really appreciate that. It's funny because Shad was basically my first show, other than like the birthday party show. It was my first real show, dealing with an agent, booking someone, tickets, the whole works. And again, I was probably 19, 20. And I saw him the year before, went to Osheaga, my first time kind of going away with buddies for a big festival in Montreal. And it was just incredible. We saw him perform, and I was just thinking to myself the whole time, that is awesome. You know, the boys back home are going to love this. You're going to love this. So, and I'd love to even find that email. It probably wasn't very professional at all. It came from like an old Hotmail account. Yo, Shad, you're dope. Come to Newfoundland. It'll be the best time. And there's an agent, for some reason, I guess he was bored or whatever, replied to me. And he's like, okay, but you're going to have to pay him money and put him on a plane and put him in a hotel. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And like my whole thought process for that particular show was, okay, where else is he playing? Toronto. And I'm like, okay, if I want to go to Toronto, it's going to cost me this and this. And I started comparing it that way and being like, well, this way he can come and all my buddies can see him versus us all going there. It'd be cheaper in the end. And like, I was purely thinking from a fan point of view, like it'd be cheaper for him to come there than 15 or 20 of us all want to go there. Right. Which is like not the way you're supposed to really think about it in business. But from that point of view, I asked other people to do the show with me, older producers, and they were just like, I think it's too risky. I don't know if it's going to make sense here at the time. But I was like, but he's awesome. Like, it's going to be a great show. What are you talking about? Like, don't worry about the tickets. Like, but it was awesome. It just, everything about that. Like, I remember even like Antics of the Mount Pearl group, those guys opened up for him. J.O. was there. Large live and direct. Those guys came down, opened up for the show. Like Hearsay, the openers alone was worth a ticket. Like it was a really cool show that everyone kind of just came together for. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome. I remember even booking the flight in November for a January show. I was talking to my dad about it, and I was like, "Oh, I can get $50 cheaper if I book it a little bit later in the day." I remember he said to me, he goes, "Yeah, but it's January in Newfoundland. Like anything happens, get him here as early as you can." I said, "All right, fine." Spend an extra $50, which is a lot. Spend it. Show sold out a couple days before, and there was a storm brewing.
Of course, man.
Of course there is. You're sold out. You're not getting off that easy. There's a storm coming. And I'm there. I'm just like at the airport, fingers crossed. And sure enough, again, this is like, you know, before like you're checking on your phone as much 10 years ago. I'm just waiting. Sure enough, he just shows up at the airport. I'm like, yes, he's here. I remember it was like a movie. I looked up at the screen, and it's boom, everything else that day was just canceled.
No way, man.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. And again, Tony at the Rock House was like, yeah, he's in. Show sold out. We're doing it. And like the only venue probably open downtown that night, just packed full of people, diehard fans. It was awesome. So that's
the glory days of packing a bar, man.
Imagine, right?
Yeah, crazy. I know. One of these days we'll get back to that for sure.
I had some laugh at your show at Christmas time, man. Speaking of packed bars at the Rock, like it's packed, COVID packed, you know. But
yeah, well, I mean,
that was awesome. Like,
yeah, it was. That was a really fun show. I got to say, once again, I find myself repeating myself, but, we've been pretty lucky here, especially after the first wave. It just felt like it was just like everything was kind of back to normal. For anybody who's listening, maybe outside of Newfoundland, Rock House is probably holds the biggest capacity on the street, does it? Besides pretty Club One, I guess.
Now. Yeah.
But I'm not too sure if Club One's really doing anything right now. But anyways, Rock House is, it's a big music venue. I think in regular times, it probably holds like 325 people roughly around there. And they put on they let people put on shows Christmas time they maxed it out at 100 people, all seated. I mean, this is a concert venue where people are stood up generally, but they brought in seats and tables, and I had a laugh playing that way. I thought it was pretty neat to do it there. I think everybody really kind of enjoyed that too. Everyone had their tables, like everyone's like sitting back, just digging, like it was like a cabaret show at the Rock House, but it was like rock and roll, you know?
It was good. No, I really enjoyed it, man. I find you listen a lot more, and it was good. No, everyone had a blast that show, Christmas time too.
Yeah, that was one of the fun things I found about that show is like normally like the Tibbs Eve show. I put out a show every December 23rd, which is Tibbs Eve in Newfoundland, which is the day before Christmas Eve. And I mean, it's probably the biggest night of Christmas downtown. Like it's just an absolute shit show, So, I mean, I've been doing it for years and years and years. So like, I was really, really excited that I got to do it this year. But one thing about the Christmas show is like, it's always there. The Tibbs Eve show. It's like, it's always a great show because you always have, you're guaranteed almost like 98% sure you're going to sell the thing out. Like it's always going to be a huge show. But it's definitely not one where you're going to like sit in and like tell a few stories about each song because everyone's like just seeing all their buddies who are home for Christmas and everyone's just like slamming cheap whiskey and everyone's just like, everyone's just partying, having a great time. And that's what the show was about. But this time it was, it was a little different because everyone got to sit down and I felt like I could actually get up and tell a few stories about some of the songs and felt like it was a bit more of a audience connection there for that one for sure. Yeah.
No, it was perfect. I gotta say, man, I genuinely did really, really enjoy that. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. So I wanted to ask you how you got like kind of tangled up with the comedy scene, Brent. I know you were bringing in live shows and where did that come about and how did you get involved with Colin, Brian and Mike?
Sure. Yeah. Kind of a funny story there. They all had their own sort of connection, but it happened actually at Jibfest probably 5 years ago. Jibfest was, again, the festival in Corner Brook. It's every February. It's the Mun midterm break and it's the winter carnival in Corner Brook. So it's a big weekend. We'd go out there. When I first got involved, it was just a main event Saturday. And then when I got involved, we expanded it to do at a block party Friday night. So, you get 5 or 6 bars, one bracelet, you hop around, different types of music going on. But it was so much work. After like a year or two of doing that, like I just be driving home the next day. I'm like, man, I didn't even really get to enjoy myself at all. I didn't go snowboard. It was like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days of being absolutely flat out. So we more or less added a comedy show the following night, like for ourselves, just to like people organize the show, just to like unwind, relax. Like if you break even, best kind. If not, whatever, just for fun. And so we need some comics to book. So I kind of started like going to more open mics and checking out like who was involved in the scene a bit. Yeah, and that's actually how I met Brian. I mean, I showed up at a show at Trapper John's years ago, and with kind of in the back of my mind, see who's doing what to be good to book. And Brian actually ended up started like picking on me in the front row and grilling me or something like this. And yeah, it's kind of funny. Then later on, I messaged him on Facebook. You want to come out? And he's like, absolutely. So we became buddies that way. Probably a year or so later, met Colin Hollett as well. Became good buddies with him. Then me and him actually ran a comedy room for about 2 years in St. John's at the Fifth Ticket, called That Time of the Month, last Saturday of every month. It was we brought in headliners from all across the country. Probably did it for 24 months, like two straight years.
Yeah, I remember that. That was in the upstairs room there, right?
Upstairs, gorgeous. Yeah. I'd love to do something there again. Gorgeous venue, 50 seats, concrete wall, low ceilings, like just a real nice atmosphere. We did 2 shows, and yeah, that was great. So I met Colin that way, and then I'd known Mike before. Funny enough, Mike was actually years ago just doing some work before he really got into comedy, just doing some freelance postering with poster for shows. So actually, first time I met Mike was to drop off like 100 posters and he had to put up my posters for a random show. And then so that's how I met Mike. Now I put up his posters. So it's kind of funny that just flipped. But I met Brian, Colin, and Mike. We all had our own kind of relationships. 3, 4 years ago, they called me up and said, we're doing some shows together in Newfoundland. We're doing shows together in Alberta, the 3 of us. But we'd love to kind of expand it across the country, create a brand and really build it, but we need a proper producer. So I was like, absolutely. I pitched them a couple names. I was like, what about Best Kind Comedy Tour? They really love that. And then, yeah, the 4 of us just partnered up. I'm behind the scenes handling the bookings, logistics, the promo, things like that. And then between the 4 of us, we just took it on. And that's how we sort of came together. Because I knew them all individually. And then when it came time to form, we all just came together. So it was good.
Now I know besides being behind the wheel on this, on the Best Kind Comedy Tour. So the first 2 years, did you go right across the country for both of those years?
We did the first year.
First year, yes.
The first year we drove everywhere, like Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, everywhere, just to kind of see it out. And then we're like, second year, you know, there's, as you can probably guess, like, you know, Newfoundland, Ontario, Alberta, just bigger markets with a Newfoundland base. So we actually played a few more markets. We added Cambridge, a couple other places in Ontario, which was awesome. Like Newfoundland Club there in Cambridge. Like, shout out to those guys, like Jamie Squires over there. That was absolute blast. You know, it's like walking around the bay in Newfoundland. It was like, so it was amazing.
Everyone's like, "What are you at, buddy? How you getting on, buddy? What's going on there?"
it really was. And I'm like, oh, this is sick. And then we flew to Alberta and added a couple more shows in Alberta. Same thing, Brooks. Where else do we add? Brooks, Alberta. We did Lloydminster that year. That was kind of an interesting show. Like just weird things. Like I think about comedy too. Like you can kind of do more shows in different nights. You know.
Exactly.
Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah, it's not. You don't have. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a 11 o'clock bar show, whereas if you're a band or something like that. But I want to ask you about like some of the finer details and stuff that you kind of do with you know, the Best Con comedy tour. Like I mentioned, obviously I know you drive, but I mean that's not your job. Like you do a ton of behind the scenes work. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you do, you know, for getting that tour ready?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, we started probably a month or more right now. I mean, I'm just kind of contacting all the venues right now and just booking the venues, which is a lot of, again, especially the first year when a lot of these places didn't know you, it was a lot more work. You know, you're really trying to sell yourself, sending them material, trying to work out those deals, you know, basically the booking agent for the guys. Right. But and then obviously once you make that relationship, it's more of a, hey, you want to come back? Oh, we'd love to have you. What dates are available? And then trying to route it in the way that makes sense, you know, so kind of driving somewhat efficiently and flying somewhat efficiently. So that's sort of what I'm doing right now, you know, just spending a lot of time between Google Documents, Excel sheets, and Google Maps, trying to book everything, place it together. But that's a big part of it now. And then obviously working with sponsors, you know, like Ford sponsored our last tour. We work with them again this year. So big shout out to Cabot Ford, of course.
Yeah, that's a huge sponsor. That's a huge sponsor. They gave you a vehicle, I believe, didn't they, to take with you?
Absolutely, yeah. So we rented one and stuff, but they covered all that, you know.
Sure.
And so it was, a huge help. I mean, that's the thing. We're independent, you know. We're taking all this on yourself, a lot of overhead, accommodations, food, fuel, everything, right? So I mean, to have a big sponsor like that is a massive help, and they've been really fun to work with. You know, they're just like, yeah, we like what you're doing, boys, and you want to be part of the brand. So it's been really cool. So yeah, just trying to keep those relationships alive for the guys and do some of those behind the scenes work.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's never tough or it's never easy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like leaving Newfoundland, like traveling, like for tours. I mean, you know, for anybody who doesn't know this, like to get off of the island of Newfoundland driving, like you're almost into day 3 by the time you really, I mean, you can get across the island in 12, 13 hours. Then you're looking at a 5-hour ferry ride, 6-hour ferry ride. Then you're only in Cape Breton. I mean, then to get to Halifax, you're looking at another 5 hours. That's just to get to the next big city, which is really Halifax, which, you know, God love Halifax, but it's not Toronto. It's not Montreal. It's not Calgary, you know, and it's still an East Coast city. Obviously it's bigger than St. John's and stuff, but I mean, it's a tough venture, like, you know, touring out of St. John's for sure.
It is, you know, it takes, like I said, that the startup cost is something. I mean, just extra time, extra money to get anywhere, you know, versus being a hub like Toronto. You can go 1 hour in every different direction. You're in a new market, you know, so.
And you can go home and stay in your own bed in the nighttime if you want it.
Stay in your own bed, yeah. You know, a lot of Airbnbs, and a lot of poor fellows in one hotel room, you know, but it was good.
That sounds like a bit of a comedy bit itself. I know you've done some stuff with with East Coast Lifestyle. Can you talk a little bit about that? And there you go. Nice. I actually never even seen that. I had to ask you as a question. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I know you've brought in Alex into Newfoundland a couple times. He's a friend of yours. Can you just talk a little bit about East Coast Lifestyle and what it's done for you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, like I said, Alex become a good buddy of mine. So I met Alex, the founder of East Coast Lifestyle, drop the headphone. In I'm trying to look at my poster back there, 2011 or 2012. Basically, we were doing a Mac Miller show at Mile One. I mean,
which
rest
is
in peace.
sick.
Man, that incredible, right?
Oh, like, man, one of the best.
It's so good, right? So, I mean, that was a big eye-opener for me. My first time being involved in the show at Mile One. So my partner that was doing that show was also involved in his Halifax tour. So I kind of said, okay, I'll fly to Halifax and just give you a hand with those shows. some behind the scenes, helping arrange some meet and greets, things like that. And so I was there, I was in charge of the meet and greet, probably about 40 people. I just, make sure they all came in order, got the pictures, this sort of thing, And one of the guys was Alex. So I think it was delayed probably 30, 40 minutes. So I'm just there talking to him as we were just waiting in line. And he's telling me about East Coast Lifestyle, which I think he had just started. He had just started up with it. So I was like, yeah, I'd heard about it. So yeah, we're just shooting the shit over that. Exchanged contacts, became buddies. And then, yeah, over the years, like I said, when we started Random Sound, he sponsored that for us. And then I brought him to Newfoundland a couple of times for some talks and some shows. And we stayed at the house. And I've stayed at his house in Halifax. And we just became buddies. And I mean, what he's done with that brand is incredible.
It's insane, man. It is insane. And I think that was like something like yourself. It was like a work term or something like, or
it was a university project. Started with 30 hoodies and just went from there. Got him with Studio, kind of catapulted them. His social media is just crazy. He had Ed Sheeran, Sidney Crosby repping the brand early on. So he's just such a real nice, again, hardworking guy, and got a good team behind him. His wife now, Taylor, she's incredible. So yeah, everything he's done there is awesome. He's expanded now into East Coast rum sodas. Get some rum soda drinks, which they're delicious. They're a little dangerous, but delicious. Pineapple, they're great. Chips, he's in the chip business now. Like he's just
one thing I noticed with Alex and East Coast Lifestyle, which is very, very interesting to me, is, he really came on like really hot, especially as soon as social media really took off. Like, it's been the last 10, 11 years or so, and that's been the age of Instagram, been the age of Facebook and Twitter. And I mean, that has to have been so helpful to his brand, right?
100%. No, having the foresight that he did, which is incredible, speaks volumes for his, for his approach. Like even, anyone starting a business now, especially clothing, having a strong social media, obviously kind of sounds like common sense. But again, 8, 9, 10 years ago, to put in the work that he did to build those channels up in the time was, it was not everyone was doing that. Not a lot of people were doing that. So it was good. And just, there's good customer service, good quality clothes, constantly making new designs, good partnerships. It's sort of funny how it worked. Like, we had Ghostface Killer at our at Random Sound, the festival we did years ago, actually in Mount Pearl at the Glacier, and he met Alex then, who was sponsoring it, and sure enough, two of them ended up doing a collab, and he sponsored Ghostface's entire Eastern United States tour, East Coast Lifestyle, Ghostface custom made jersey and stuff. It's they're Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. Now they're Eastern United States. It's just you never know the kind of relationships they're going to develop, right? So
yeah, exactly. Best Kind Barbecue. I know you've been doing it for a few years now. We did one not last year. You didn't do one last year, did you?
We did do one last year, actually. We
did the beach barbecue.
Murray's Beach Bar, yeah. So,
I was supposed to play that, but it got rained out. The original one got rained out, right?
Exactly. And then you had a wedding, I think, or something.
It was. My brother got married, yeah.
Right. And funny enough, I actually missed it as well. First time I ever missed one of my own events. But I kind of, emailed everyone. They're like, yeah, we can move it. And I already had a plane ticket booked to go see my sister and her new baby girl. So I was like, I can't pass up that opportunity. And our team was there to take care of it. So it worked really well.
I know you did. The first one was in St. John's, was on the City Hall up on top there. I mean, really, really crazy, cool location. Yeah. Next year it was in Mount Pearl, right? And also had a great location, St. David's. I performed at that one. Yeah. It was a ton of fun.
420 set.
The 420 set. Yeah. The fresh Prince of Mount Pearl.
And funny enough, I'm like spreadsheet there, putting all the set times together and looking at the set time, changeover times. And I put the flyer together, not even realizing it was 420. And I'm like, that's so funny. Yeah. And then we had the Fresh Prince of Mount Pearl. I'm like, that just worked out great.
So what's the plans for 2021? Are we looking at a barbecue or what's going on?
We're definitely looking at a barbecue. Like I said, August 21st is definitely the date. We're definitely going to do something then. Where it is, I'm not exactly 100% sure yet. We do have some balls in the air, and we do have a tentative plan. I just can't really speak to it just yet.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But
can you tell everybody a little bit about what that event is and what kind of goes on there?
Yeah, sure. So it's a 12-hour just music and culinary event, I guess. So every year we like to bring in different chefs, highlight different food, and a full day of music. It's kind of like obviously we have great events here. A lot of great folk fest. Georgie Fest is great. A lot of good events here, but we kind of thought there's something missing. So this is just, there's no real guidelines when it comes to who we book. It's just who's going to put on a good show, right? So these are all types of acts, different artists, different DJs, everything, right? So we're pretty open-minded with our booking. Same with our food, just bring on different chefs every year to help develop that. So, and the games as well, a lot of cornhole, washers, we had badminton. Remember the St. David's, we were hustling hard to try and get the gates open, do all the last minute things, and the gates are finally open. My partner Evan's there, just like takes a deep breath. He's like, "Oh, we're open. It started." I was like, "Give me the keys to your truck. I'm gonna get my basketball net." He's like, "All right," because there was like this concrete slab. So I rolled my net up, and all day people were like having games of 21, and security guards were playing 2-on-2. Just a laugh, right? So we don't take ourselves too seriously and just do whatever makes sense, right?
No, it was, and you're right, man. It's like there's a lot of really great events that happen in St. John's and in Newfoundland. The folk festival, like you mentioned. I mean, but that's suited for folk music, and the people who are going know what they see there. But I mean, the barbecue is just a fun event where you might be going for different reasons. Like I chat with a bunch of different people, and people, they might not be going for the music. They love music. They love to go and hear just different artists, but they're not actually going to hear one individual artist, but maybe they're going to check out some good food that day, or they just want to spend some time out in the sun and hang out with some friends and hear some good music and have some good food. Like it's a real good vibe there. It's, everyone's like having a laugh, like you say.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're just trying to build that, and that's when, again, hopefully next year we'll get back to 2022 in St. David, same weekend every year. Then again, every time I've been to festivals away, going back to like Osheaga, for example, Montreal, as you leave, you're seeing signs that see you this date next year, like people know. And like, that's the hardest part, not knowing. I mean, our biggest competitor right now is weddings. People wrote us after barbecue, like, when is your date next year? I don't want to conflict it with my wedding, so that's cool. That's probably the best review I've ever gotten from an event.
Yeah, well, it means
right?
Yeah, well, I guess that just means that people are waiting for it and they're looking forward to it. I mean, it's building excitement. The Jibfest Weekender is another really cool event you guys do. It happens in Corner Brook, same time every year. I think this year would have been the 11th year. Was that right?
It would have been, yeah. And I mean, that was we had started planning that in the fall, like October, November, put it together. It was very scaled down. There's going to be no events at Marble, no outdoor concerts. It was just going to be dealing with the bars in Corner Brook, basically the same way they've been operating all summer and fall, with the 100-person or 50% capacity. And we had that lined up, and then we got hit with the second wave and had to cancel it. But I mean, that's, it's unfortunate, but that's just nature of the business this time of year.
Yeah, that had to be a tough decision. I remember, once again, I was involved with that one as well. I was coming out to do a few shows, and
absolutely, that was gonna be awesome. Yeah, Nick,
it would have been fun. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, and with that being said, Brent, you guys made the right decision. I mean, it was looming over everyone's head, I think, and everyone was kind of like, "Oh man, what's going to happen here?" And the cases were going up, and everything was exploding here on the East Coast, and I don't think the West Coast was too keen on welcoming too much of the East Coast over to that side at that point.
That's it, right? And that's kind of the funny part too. I mean, people just sort of like, it was still a few weeks out. People sort of expect things to happen immediately, and we're like, guys, let's just wait and see. There was a couple of cases there, okay. The next day it really shot up. So that's like, okay, let's get ahead of this. And, for the record, we shut it down before we had to. We were ahead of it and doing what felt right. But, just because there was a couple of cases, okay, let's see where this goes. And are we fine again in a week from now, or is this going into a wave? Oh, it's going into a wave. Okay, we'll scale it down, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of times with this too, people like, yourself, spend a lot more time online. They're locked in their house more. And like some people, like, I felt a lot. It was kind of discouraging. Some people were saying a lot of things that not necessarily just for my event, just for anything in general. I saw a lot more negativity and anger online. I attribute a lot of that to people just being pent up inside, like not knowing what's going on in the whole world on the macro level, So it was, there was probably a lot more anger that wouldn't normally happen, but people were just like, take a step back. It's fine. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right though, man. I mean, people are just home, man, just looking to just rip someone to shreds online. You know what I mean? But for like folks listening, if in a perfect year, what would the Jibfest Weekender entail? Like, what would that weekend be like? So for when COVID dies, it dies. When it dies, COVID dies.
When it dies, and it's gonna die. It is.
When it finally fucks off forever, like what would the Jibfest Weekender entail, and what could people look forward to head to an event like that?
Well, I mean, like I said, we're always trying to expand it and build off it. But I mean, the kind of the framework is a 3-day music and snowboarding event. So Friday is the Coors Light Block Party. It happens downtown Corner Brook. You have about 6 to 8 venues. We get one bracelet. You can hop around, so Dave Whitty could be in one venue and the girls from Lobby Sex are in another venue, so it's all types of different vibes. You hop around, find what you like, try the different things, Saturday, everyone kind of wakes up, shakes himself off, heads to the hill. Midday Saturday, we always do Relic and I put off a snowboard contest. So that's a lot of fun. And then that evening, we do our sort of main event, which in 2020 was an outdoor concert, right? So, I mean, we're definitely going to go back to that, I think. Like
it was huge. The 2020 concert was massive outside.
It was.
It had
Sammy Adams.
It had snow job vibes, like from back in the day on Much Music.
I appreciate that. And I wish we had their budget, but that's kind of what we're going, right? So if you're hearing this much, you want to come back, we'll gladly put a concert off. You sponsored it, we'll make it happen. Let's do it. But yeah, that was the vibes we were going for. And I think anytime you do something new, it's kind of hard to get people in, explain to them. But, like I said, it was a little over 1,000 people. It was awesome. And they were like, let's try this. And they're like, you're wearing snow gear anyway. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. But put your snow gear on, put your gloves and hats on and
make the best of it. Have some fun.
Yeah, it was. And people that bought into it and dressed appropriately, I think they had an absolute blast. We had a lot of great reviews and that was so much fun. Then after that, we had some buses lined up again and kind of took care of that for people. That's been really smooth. Buckles bus in Corner Brook. Shout out to those guys for taking care of us. And yeah, they'll take us to an after party back downtown Corner Brook. And then Sunday, we end things off again, another day of riding on the hill, some smaller activities on the hill, skiing and snowboarding. And then Sunday night is a comedy show at Marble Mountain. So
yeah, and Marble Mountain itself is, it's an incredible venue, like a great way to wind down the weekend. You probably just raged for 2 days. You've been snowboarding and skiing on top of that in the daytime. Probably not a whole lot of rest going on. And Sunday, it's just kind of all right, put your feet up. Let's sit here and laugh now, right?
100%. Yeah. And again, that's been something that's kind of the Laugh It Off is sort of the name, the Jibfest Laugh It Off comedy show. And we've had a lot of great comics over the years perform at that. So it's been a ton of fun growing that event. And the cool thing about it is people that maybe might not go to the Friday or Saturday will come to the Sunday event, or people might just go Friday. We're really trying to appeal to a lot more people. It started when we were in university as university students, and it's university's midterm break. And that probably makes up half our audience. But every year we're getting more and more variety, more people come from away, probably a bit of an older clientele seeping into more events. So, we're trying to expand and reach more people. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, I'll definitely be in attendance if I'm in the country next year. Maybe, who knows? Maybe on a stage. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, but,
absolutely, man. We got a IOU a Jibfest gig right there. Absolutely.
No, that's all good, man. You guys made the right decision there, and I think everybody understood that. I mean, this the tough thing with this virus, man, is that you can't really plan a whole lot. I mean, it's nice that we can finally start to get some kind of things in order, like I mentioned earlier. But it's been a tough year. I mean, with regards to that, Brent, do you have anything planned? I mean, what's in the immediate future? Anything planned, or are you still kind of weeding it out?
Immediate future. I mean, I'm probably not allowed to say this, but I guess I'll give a little sneak peek here for anyone listening. We're actually, my partner and I, we're starting an ice cream truck. So we have a kind of little different.
Is this breaking news?
Breaking news.
Did you just break this news on the podcast? Wow, man.
I did break it. Yeah. He's going to probably be pissed at me, but yeah, might as well start leaking some information. I won't say too much, but hopefully to be next month downtown. It's kind of all I'll say for now. But yeah,
don't rate me after. Don't rate me after and ask me to edit this because I can't. I don't know how to do it, man.
Yeah, that's it. We're live on the. All right, yeah. So ice cream truck downtown St. John's.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. I mean, I won't ask you too much about it because obviously you're trying to keep it a little hush hush, but that's pretty exciting. Yeah. Ice cream truck's coming. Any shows planned, and I know the comedy thing you're doing across the island this year, right?
Yeah, so the Mike Lynch's tour, the show we're getting, that has another show this weekend and next weekend. They're all sold out, but we're going to be hopefully again next month in June announcing our Best Guy in Comedy tour. So that'll be late August and all September throughout Newfoundland. We're going to a lot of new places this year. Really excited for that. And yeah, sidebar, that's been a really cool thing about COVID is not being able to travel, I guess, as much outside the province. We've done some smaller shows in new places that are just welcome you in open arms. The guys were in Secret Cove, Port Brewery there for a show last week, Twilling Gate, Springdale, St. Anthony, Port aux Basques, Clarenville, Bay Roberts, Harbor Grace, like just, everywhere is just so welcoming, right?
And like
really
some of those
good.
places, I mean, especially if you're doing like this, like you've done in the past, a national tour, or even if you're just doing, some of the East Coast, Ontario and Alberta, like you're probably not getting up to St. Anthony. You know what I mean? You're not like different places. You're not getting into some of the, harder sought areas, but you've gone there and you learn that, man, there's some good shows to be had there in those places as well.
There's good shows to be had and good people. I mean, like St. Anthony, we just did 2 shows, like a double header on a Tuesday night, because there's just good people and they want the entertainment. So I mean, that's what we've learned. Like, there's people there and want the show, we'll bring it to them, right? Because again, I grew up my whole life as a promoter, so I know what it's like to try and hit people up and then like not kind of give you enough attention or give you a chance, right? So I'm like, I know what it's like to not be able to get shows. So when people come to me and they want to do the shows I'm doing, I'm like, absolutely, we can make it happen. We'll come anywhere and tell jokes, right? Like we love it, right? Like, let's go.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's awesome, Brent, man. You've given me a ton of work over the years. You've always been a great guy, man, and you always helped me out. And it's always been a fun thing to be a part of all your events, man. I love watching you grow, and I love watching your team work together and pull off these events, because they're always a blast. I mean, everybody always just has the best time at all these events, man. So for the sake of that, man, please keep going, because everybody needs that outlet from time to time, and you provide them. You do a great job, behind the scenes, and you're always part of the party too, man. You're always having a laugh too, and you do it with a smile.
Throwing out t-shirts, yeah.
You do it with a smile on your face, man. That goes a long way. People realize that for sure.
No, I really appreciate it. I truly do, and yeah, I can't wait to really get back to 100% and a few gigs with you, a few gigs with everyone else. And I mean, the community here is just so good, right? Like when we get a call and rebook dates, I mean, venue owners, artists, everyone is just ready to go. I mean, it's such a it's good.
It is.
You're a good place.
You're right, man. It's a great community. Yeah. There's a great community of artists here, man. And people just want to be entertained. Like people just love being entertained here. Like put something in front of me, make me smile. No, it's awesome, Brent. Thanks again, man. For anybody who's at home and might want to find, and maybe where can we find you online on your website?
Brent Mac on all my socials, Brent Mac 709 on Instagram, and Brent Mac Events on Facebook. I mean, bestconcomedytour.com. We just put out our special from last year, actually. So if you're want to get some Newfoundland laughs on board, we just released that there a month ago. It's been doing well, so that's some great content there. But I mean, you can just Brent Mac online, you'll find me. So
right on, man. Well, thanks so much again for taking the time to come on today. I know you're a busy man, and I actually had to get you on a little. Normally, I actually record these on Tuesdays, but I'm a little busy for the next couple of days. So you were graceful enough to come on a little day early for me and make the time. So thanks again, Brent. You're a treasure in our community, my friend. Thanks again.
I appreciate the kind words, buddy. Pleasure talking to you, and can't wait to have a beer with you soon.
All right, buddy. We'll catch up with you soon. Cheers.
Sounds good, buddy.
Big thanks to Brent for coming on there. Super awesome dude. Super fun to talk to. I mean, like I mentioned, he's got his hands in everything. He's just a super positive guy. I mean, he loves bringing good times and good vibes to the scene, and he does just that. I mean, he works his ass off, guys. Like I mentioned in that interview. What people don't realize about this industry is the actual amount of work that goes into behind the scenes. Like, I can't imagine what Brent does, but I'm just, personally speaking, like they say, the shows are sometimes only 10% of what the actual product is. There's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes that is necessary to pulling off events like that, pulling off tours. So, you got to hand it to Brent. He's an outgoing guy. He works his tail off, and it shows, it shows in the products that he puts out. So you got to hand it to Brent. Make sure you do check out him and the events that he puts off. Sorry. Yeah. Gonna leave it there. I'm going to get to some editing because it's going to take me a little while. And, back next week, of course, with another podcast. Going to try to keep these going, as much as I can for the summer, as long as I can keep some interesting guests coming. I'm still looking for a sponsor. I know I'm probably sounding like, but here would be your sponsor. I would talk about your business right now. And, I'm not looking for a whole lot, guys. If you want to sponsor me, you can throw me a few bucks and it would just pay me for my time to do these podcasts. It takes me about 4 or 5 hours a week by the time I do an interview, and I cut and edit all the audio, and then I cut and edit all the video. And then, between the upload times, the social media, and then doing all the actual social media posts, it takes me about 4 or 5 hours a week. So looking for a sponsor. If you're a small business and you want to, you want some advertising, hit me up. We can work out a deal. I would love to really get something on board for this, and it would really keep the spark under my ass to keep doing these, because they're a lot of fun. I really enjoy them. I got to say that it's been a blast getting to chat with people and really getting to know them, and really working out the editing process and all that stuff. I've really enjoyed that as well. But a little sponsorship wouldn't hurt, and I'm reaching really good numbers. I mean, every week the numbers are going up, and the audience is getting larger and larger, and it seems like every week I'm getting new messages from random people and people who I've never met saying, hey, tune in your podcast and really enjoying the guests you're having on. And so, yeah, if you want to sponsor this podcast, please hit me up and we can work out something. Other than that, not too much going on for me. What do I got on to go this weekend? Friday night, I'm at the Bull. Bull and Barrel, back at the Bull and Barrel Friday night. Love playing the Bull. Solo set, going to be like a 10:30, till 1 or 1:30 kind of thing. Very limited capacity at the Bull and Barrel, not a big spot, so make sure if you are coming down to get down early. And I think you can actually make some reservations if you're coming down with a little group and you want to save a seat there. I don't think they turned that away. So if you're feeling so inclined to come down and check out a few tunes Friday night and at the Bull and Barrel, come see me. Saturday I got a buddy's diaper party, so I'm taking the night off from gigging, and Sunday I'm back at Greensleeves. So maybe we'll catch you the weekend, and hopefully the weather is looking pretty good, and we're rolling into spring here. So really looking forward to getting out again and seeing everybody, and it's been a real treat. So that about does it for me, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in again. Make sure you do like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, and make sure you follow me on all social media at Dave Whitty. And like I mentioned earlier, if you want to follow my new band at the Dawnies, you can follow us, on Instagram and Facebook. So that about does it for me, guys. Thanks again from downtown St. John's, Newfoundland. My name is Dave Whitty. Peace.